What's up, guys? Hey, Belmont. Nice to see you. I am doing well. I hope you're doing well, Belmont. Alright, today we're going to be doing something cool. A certain Mr. Voultar sent over an Edge Enhancer kit, and we're going to install that on my launch model Super Famicom. Now, this Super Famicom is has been in my collection for I want to say like 6 or 7 years. I acquired this Super Famicom as part of a large lot of broken Super Nintendos and Super Famicoms. It was just kind of a mix. And I went through and ended up cobbling together some working Super Nintendos out of that lot. We had a lot of failed PPUs, a couple of bad CPUs, so there was a lot of swapping parts off of old boards and cobbling together complete functioning systems. And this is one of those systems. This is one that I kept for myself because the shell was in pretty nice condition. It's not terribly yellowed, and it's just a pretty good looking example of a Super Famicom, so I've kept this in my collection. And this is an SHVC-CPU-01, so it's a very first launch model Super Nintendo. It does have an old de-jitter mod installed, and I didn't talk to Voultar about this, about whether or not that would be an issue. So we're going to find out tonight if the Edge Enhancer and the de-jitter mod have any issues with one another. If they do, I do have a couple of parts boards laying around, so if I need to remove the de-jitter mod and restore it back to the original configuration, I have parts I can pull from another board. I'm also planning to do a recap, but I didn't realize until right before starting the stream that I don't have some of the capacitors that I need for a recap, because I have my capacitor collection is originally, it's intended for one chip Super Nintendos. So I have all the capacitors you would need for a one chip, but I am missing the 100 microfarad capacitors you need for the non-one chip consoles. So I won't be able to replace all the capacitors tonight, but I'm going to replace the ones that I have, and the ones that I can't replace, I'll take care of that later on. But yeah, I guess we'll go ahead and get started on this. First thing I want to do is pull up the throw a game in here, and we'll take a look at the video quality as it stands on this launch model Super Nintendo. Let's see. Where is the controller? Let's see here. Okay, let me... Where's my remote? Where is my Tink remote? Let's see. Huh. Well, capture looks awful on the RetroTink. Why is this? I mean, it's not supposed to look great because it is a launch Super Nintendo, but this looks especially bad. And I am not sure why that is. Is the SD2NES menu in a different resolution than in most Super Nintendo games? Oh, hey, Voultar. Well, let's fire up something. Let's fire up some sort of thing, and we'll see. Oh yeah, see that looks correct in the 240p test suite. So yeah, I mean, you know, it looks like a Super Nintendo to me. Kind of soft, kind of terrible looking, you know? All right, let's pull up a test pattern. Oh man, look at how terrible that looks. Awful. All right, well. Let's hop into an actual game real quick. Oh, I don't have Final Fantasy. I should put Final Fantasy 6 on here. That's a great example of how bad these look. Let me run the burn-in test real quick as well. I'm pretty sure that this Super Nintendo is in good shape as far as functioning, but it has been a long time. It has been a long time since I've actually played anything on it. It's just been sitting in my collection. This was one that I repaired by replacing. I think I replaced a PPU in this one, and I assume it's still functioning. Looks like everything's going all right as far as the graphics tests and everything here so far. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and get started on actually installing this thing. How do y'all feel about the Super Famicom versus the North American Super Nintendo? My opinion is that the Super Famicom is a really beautiful console, and the North American Super Nintendo kind of looks like garbage. But what do you guys think? I'd love to know. If somebody would ever make a replacement, just the cartridge port area that was like a perfect color match and had the correct logo and everything, that could accept the North American Super Nintendo cartridges, this is all I would have, would be the Super Famicom. All right, so we'll go ahead and get all this out of here and take a look at the condition of this board. Like I said before, it has a de-jitter mod that I installed probably 6 years ago. So we'll see how that install looks. All right. So here's our motherboard. On the back, we've got our de-jitter mod. There you go. That's my old de-jitter install. It's not beautiful. Let's see if it'll, if its current position will interfere with the Edge Enhancer. Let's see, the Edge Enhancer drops in, what, right here somewhere? Yeah, it looks like it doesn't interfere at all. But I do think I'm going to redo some of the wiring here because I don't particularly love the way it looks. Yeah, not exactly beautiful. Alright, so yeah, it looks like the interposer fits just fine with the de-jitter mod in place, so we'll just leave that as is. I know that Voultar doesn't particularly care for the de-jitter mod, but it's in there, and even though I don't really need it anymore, I'm gonna leave it because restoring the original crystal and everything is gonna be more work. So let's see, which revision of the PPU-2 is it? PPU-2A. What's the prognosis on a PPU-2A? Let's see. We've got a scrap board here with a PPU-2A on it. I've also got a scrap board with a PPU-2C on it. I've got a scrap board with a PPU-2B. And another scrap board with a PPU-2B. Voultar, what are we looking for as far as PPUs? What's the reliable or unreliable PPU revisions? Okay, I'm going to do the recap real quick. That's going to be the first move here. So we'll go ahead and get the shield removed. Okay, so the capacitors that I'm missing are these 100 microfarad capacitors. I don't have any because I only have capacitors for one chips, and they don't use these 100 microfarad capacitors, so I can't replace these right now, but I will replace all the other ones that I have. Yeah, I should have all the others besides the 100 microfarads, and I'll just deal with those later. And since this is a Super Famicom, this actually does have the 1000 microfarad capacitor populated, so we're going to replace that too. Oh, I do have 220 microfarad caps, so how are these laid out? How are these laid out on this, as far as the circuit? Like, what do I need to do to replace them with are they in series or parallel? I assume they're in parallel, right? Okay, so these two are in parallel with each other, and these two are in parallel with each other. So we're just going to replace one on each side and remove the others. Let's... Okay, I don't have any surface mount 220s, so I'm gonna use some through hole 220s, but we'll make that work. All right. We'll go ahead and get to it. We'll start off with the 1000 microfarad capacitor. I'm gonna drop a little bit of fresh solder in here. That was no good. Wow. Wow. That just ripped the pads right off of this board. Both pads destroyed. I have never had that happen. This is shocking. These pads just flew off of this board like they just did not want to be there. Gone. Crazy. Well, those pads don't actually connect to anything on this side of the board. Do they not? Does this pad not connect to this copper core? It doesn't look like it. Well, maybe it did. Yeah, it might have connected right there on the edge. Let me look at one of my scrap boards for reference. No. No, those pads don't connect to anything on that side of the board. See? So, they just flew right off. Well, I can probably still install a replacement capacitor. I wonder if the... Let me hop under the microscope real quick in here and see if there's anything left in the plated through holes. Yeah, it looks like there's still material in the plated through holes. So I can probably still install the capacitor there, and it won't be installed very well, but this capacitor isn't required necessarily anyway, so it'll be fine. We'll just see if we can get some solder down in there. I think it'll probably be fine. Let's see if we have any continuity. Okay, we got a connection here. Okay, yeah, it's still making connection. Yeah, the plated through holes are still we're still intact, so the board is it's fine. The capacitor's fine. All right. Now that that nightmare is taken care of, let's go through and recap the rest of this board. All right, we'll go ahead and tackle these 10 microfarad capacitors. Uh-oh. All right. Go ahead and clean these pads up. Okay, we'll go ahead and remove the 100 microfarad capacitors as well while we're removing capacitors. All right. And we got these couple of 33 microfarad capacitors as well. Let's get rid of those. I like to tin the pads before I remove the capacitors because a lot of times this old solder doesn't flow very well. So tinning seems to help when it comes to removing surface mount capacitors. Yeah, we're recapping first, just because this needs to be done on this console. This one's a launch model. These capacitors are very old, so it's just a good idea to go ahead and recap them. As far as hot tweezers are concerned, the ones I'm using do unfortunately cost a fortune. I don't know that there is... I don't know of any low-cost, good quality hot tweezers. And to be honest with you, these ones that I use, these are Metcal tweezers, because my entire soldering station is a Metcal station. And they are extremely expensive, and I don't like them very much. They're not very good, which is unfortunate. For the amount of money that you pay for some of this stuff, sometimes you don't get a very good value. Overall, I love my Metcal gear, but the hot tweezers are not very impressive for the price you pay. Okay, I'm gonna convert these 220 microfarad capacitors that I have here into surface mount capacitors by bending the legs over. And trimming them. That looks pretty good. Voultar, is that about right? Sweet. All right. All right, and we got a 2.2 microfarad capacitor down here. C62. Well, there you go. That's the recap done. Now we also probably should replace the capacitors in the sound unit. Let me pop this thing open. I think I've got the capacitors I need for the sound unit. Let's see. How do you get this thing open? Well, I've got the top off of the sound unit, but the other half of the shield does not want to come off. There we go, finally. Good lord. Alright, so it looks like these are 47 microfarad through-hole capacitors. Let me look at what I've got. Let's look at the bag O capacitors. These are 47 microfarads. But will they fit? That's the thing. These are tall boys. Let's see, what are these rated? 25 volts. Yeah, those are 10 volt capacitors. So these will definitely work as long as they fit. I bet I can tip them over a little bit if they don't fit underneath the cover of the sound module. Yeah, they won't clear it, but I can probably tip them over sideways, so that's what we're gonna do. Now we're gonna hope that the pads don't just come flying off of these ones whenever I desolder them, like the 1000 microfarad capacitor did. Oh, apparently I don't need to desolder them because they just fall out. So, there you go. No desoldering gun required. But I am going to suck the solder out with this. Well, that was incredibly easy. Alright, so I think if I just pop these in here and then tilt them over sideways like that, that should work just fine. Oops. Wrong polarity. Yeah, that ought to work. There you go. Sound module recapped. Pretty easy as long as you can get inside of there. All right, now that we got all the recapping stuff done, we can move on to the Edge Enhancer, the star of the show. Okay, we got our interposer, we've got our Edge Enhancer, we've got our multi-out, and our ribbon cable, or flex cable. We're gonna need some wire. Let's see here. One of the things I'm gonna do is I'm going to replace some of this de-jitter wiring because it's pretty hideous right now. Let's see here. Let me look at something here. Let's see. Which components are we going to need to remove for the Edge Enhancer? We're going to need to remove C8, C6, 7, and 8, which are these right here. And let's see, R19, R9. It looks like, yeah, it looks like I'm not gonna have to remove anything that this wiring is gonna cross over, so I don't think we have anything to worry about over here to try to avoid running this wire over. Okay, that's a little nicer than it was before. Let's go ahead and also redo this wire as well. Alright, and this here is the clock wire for the dejitter mod. And I'm going to see about if there is a smarter way to route this clock wire. I don't think it introduces any noise into the sync lines that would be visible in video at all. But I did have it crossing right between the C-Sync in and C-Sync out lines. So I wonder if maybe it would be a better idea to route it around here a little bit and kind of lift it up off of the board a little bit. So we're going to try something like that. Okay, that should give it a little bit of space. Okay, that looks all right. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and start removing components for the Edge Enhancer. So we need to remove Q3, Q5, and Q7 right down here. All right, so the interposer is going to drop into place right here, like so. Okay, all the castellated edges look reasonably good. Reasonably well aligned. Okay, we'll go ahead and start soldering these points. Did that one connect? Let me check under my microscope. It's hard to see here. Got it. My interposer didn't line up quite right because where I had the power soldered for the old dejitter mod, it just didn't line up exactly correctly with the capacitor that's there. So that threw off the alignment a little bit everywhere, which is making it a little bit more difficult to get the castellated edges to connect to the spots they're supposed to. But no matter, we will get past this. All right, let's see. We've got this one, this one, this one. Okay, we've got these two pads here. We have these pads here. Come on. Okay, it looks like we got all the pads for the interposer. Okay, now we need to add the actual Edge Enhancer chip to the interposer. Hey Voultar, are you still here? If you are, do you think that the placement that I have for this dejitter mod is going to be a problem? Because if I need to, because obviously the RGB ribbon, the flex cable needs to come out here, which is going to go right over the clock crystal. So if I need to move this over, I can. What are your thoughts? You don't see any potential issues with the flex cable passing directly over the clock crystal here? Okay, we'll give it a shot. All right, we'll go ahead and remove the resistors and capacitors up here that we need to remove. Okay, we need to remove this capacitor, C7, C8, and C6. Okay, then we need to remove R19. Or whichever one this is, because the silk screen on the Super Nintendo is not very clear. Same for this one. Silk screen's not very clear. And this one here. Okay, then also R9. And R8. God, the silk screen is awful. The silk screen design is awful on these Super Nintendos. Okay, let me review real quick, make sure I got all the right ones off. Got 19. Do, do, do. Do, do, do. Yep. Okay, looks like I've removed all the required components. Now we gotta do the RGB mixer part of the Edge Enhancer. So we need a ribbon cable, 3 conductors. Let's see here. And those are going to connect up to these capacitors that we removed. So here to here approximately. We'll go ahead and cut that. Whoops, I overdid it here on my wire adjustments. Trying to get it to make a nice arc over to the area where it's supposed to be. Mix Bomb, you can't do this mod on a 1-chip. This is only for older pre-1-chip models. Alright, that looks pretty good. Go ahead and trim this down a little bit more. I think that should be right on the money. Belmont, oh yeah, you know what, you're right. I did miss this capacitor right here. Appreciate it. Hey, you know what? No worries, Belmont. I would have ended up noticing it at some point when it didn't work, so you just saved me the trouble, that's all. I appreciate it. Okay, that should be it for the RGB mixer. Now, Voultar did tell me that the wires for the RGB mixer need to have a little bit of space, a little bit of vertical space above the cartridge connector, because there can be some high-speed noise that can be picked up by the cartridge connector if the wires are really close and like passing between the pins on here. So just a little bit of vertical space, like so, should be perfectly what you want to avoid any noise. Okay, now for the multi-out quick solder board. Just got to solder in a few points here. Okay, now this is going to be a tight squeeze down here where this de-jitter mod is. I'm going to see if I can get this QSB plugged in, or this flex cable plugged in. I'm not going to be able to do this. Alright, here's what we're going to do. We're going to relocate it slightly. It's just too close here. Come on. I believe I used 3M VHB to put this VHB tape to install this de-jitter mod originally, and that stuff is quite tough. I may not actually be able to physically remove this without damaging something. Alright, well, I'll tell you what. I've got it moved out of the way enough that I think I'll be able to get the flex cable in there, and then maybe we'll just shove it back over. The thing about this VHB tape is that if you peel on it, if you pull it this way, it's so strong that you could possibly rip traces off of the board or crack the board or something. I mean, it's just, this stuff is super strong. So what you normally want to do for VHB tape is to twist it. But I don't really have a lot of room to twist here because of the existing wires that are installed. We'll just twist it out of the way as far as we can, get this flex cable installed, and then we'll just see if we can fold this flex cable around. Okay, so the flex cable is in. Okay, now it's shifted over so far that the original power wires that I had run here are too short. So we're gonna have to run new power wires too. That's okay. That's all part of the fun. Okay, that looks reasonably okay. Alright, let's see how I'm supposed to bend this flex cable. It's supposed to go out like this, and then over like this, and up to here. Okay, that works. That makes sense. All right. Well, that looks like it's about done. Let me go take a look up here and just double check all the steps, make sure I didn't miss anything. Cool. Looks like we did everything we were supposed to do. So, in that case, let's go ahead and fire this thing up for some testing. Go ahead and pop the heatsink back on. Come on. That looks pretty good, I think. Let's go ahead and pop this in place. Somehow I have lost the shield. The top shield. I don't know where it went. I'm looking around. It's not on my desk. How does this happen to me? Where is it? Sometimes I feel like I'm losing my mind, okay? I have no idea where that went. Found it. It fell off my desk into the trash can. All right, what I like to do, I like to put this screw in and then put in the power switch and put these screws in before I ever plug it back in, because if this power switch touches this shield, it will, while it's plugged in, even if it's not on, it'll short out and blow the fuse. So I always like to get this power switch secured even whenever I'm just doing testing, to make sure that this power switch doesn't touch the shield or anything grounded at all. Because if you blow the fuse, you gotta replace the fuse, which is a pain. Super Nintendo problems. Okay, let's see the results. We'll look at the 240p test suite. Wow. That does look razor sharp. It's almost like an emulator. Wow, that looks way better. So much sharper. I'd say that looks as good as a one chip, if not better. Let me see something here real quick. I have right here the SNES Junior. Let's see here if I can find a spot to plug this in. It goes to that. There we go. All right, let's shut this off for a second. Swap over to a SNES Junior. So this is a one chip, okay? So that's a one chip. Looks really good. Obviously, it's a one chip. Go back over to our Edge Enhanced. Whoops. Oh, yeah. No, we're good. Okay, it looks really good, but I do have a question for you, Voultar. It does look like we're still getting a little bit of a shadow on the right-hand side of the pixels. Is that a phase issue? I'm running a RetroTink 5X here, and it's set to auto phase, but is there something I need to change here? What are your thoughts, Voultar? Manually set the phase. Okay, let's go into... That one looks pretty good. I mean, that one looks better than when it was on the auto setting. But yes, it looks significantly sharper than it did before. I would say this is entirely comparable in terms of sharpness to the one chip, but I do think the colors look better. Let's load up an actual game here. Let's go with the classic. Oh yeah, the colors look fantastic. This just looks so good. Let's see. Okay, I think that's the one right there. I think that's the correct phase setting. Because this looks, like, pristine. I'm getting a little bit of a noise pattern. I wonder... Let me look at what... Okay, my RetroTink 5X is connected to this power supply. Might just be a power supply issue. I've had some issues with this RetroTink 5X in this setup. Oh, we're not in... Yeah, that's definitely the right phase setting. Yeah, I do have a little bit of diagonal noise going. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little bit of diagonal noise in the grays in the background. Do you have any idea what that noise? Take out the bottom shield. Okay. Let me do that real quick. Okay, well I removed the shielding, but I'm still seeing a little bit of diagonal noise. Now it could be, there's always a possibility it could be something in my setup down here in the workshop, because this is not necessarily where this console would normally be set up, and I'm using a power supply. This is not an off-brand, well, this is not a Nintendo power supply that I'm using, but it is a good quality power supply. It's not a switch mode power supply. So I wonder if maybe the power supply is part of the problem, but this one tends to be a really good power supply in my experience with this. I've been using this down here in the shop for years. But it could be something related to the power supply. Remove the RGB mixer wires from the interposer. What are those wires, what are they responsible for? Are they the part that mixes the RGB into the encoder for composite and stuff? Okay, so just disconnect the mixer wires from the interposer temporarily. All right, let's give this a shot with the mixer wires removed, and we'll see what we get. Well, that appears to have been the problem, because I'm not seeing the noise anymore. So so we're just routed too close to the cartridge slot. I need to redo the mixer wires. Is that the idea? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to pass them through that area, area where there are no pins on the cartridge, kind of like you demonstrated on one of the photos you sent me, and we'll see how that does. See, this is actually my favorite part about new stuff, is the troubleshooting things that aren't, like, before, like, all the established best practices are, like, completely figured out. It's fun to be, like, an early adopter who gets to help, you know, figure out what the best practices are. Okay, just keep that out of the way for now. Go ahead and just remove. Okay. We'll make it a little bit longer this time. Okay. How's that look? Still got plenty of space between the board, but it doesn't pass over any of the, doesn't pass directly over any of the pins of the cartridge. Maybe you should have like a little, maybe you should have like a little 3D printed cable holder that keeps it positioned high up, you know? I know gravity will help a little bit, but not much. Okay, we'll give this, we'll go ahead and get this ribbon cable reconnected and give this one a try. Now, if it looks fine like this, I can probably put the bottom shield back in, you think? Or you think I should just still leave it out? But Voultar, what about the FCC? The FCC wants that bottom shield in there. Although I guess this is a Super Famicom, so the FCC doesn't have any jurisdiction. What is the Japanese equivalent of the FCC? Oh. I didn't put the sound module back in. You have to have the sound module for it to boot. I forgot about that. Okay, well that looks noise-free to me. So yeah, it was just the, I guess we were just a little too close to that cartridge port. All right, so you know, counterintuitively to everything that I normally am trying to do, we want to keep the cables a little bit longer on this mod rather than shorter. So that's good. Hey, you know what? This looks fantastic. I'm really impressed with this. I kind of wish that this was not a Super Famicom so that I could put this in my main setup, but my main Super Nintendo is a 1-chip, so I guess I'll live with it. But this one is going to be great to have in the collection, and it's just looks beautiful. The best I've ever seen a non-1-chip look. This is pretty incredible. The colors look fantastic. I do think the colors look better than a 1-chip. For sure. Oh yeah, it's amazing, Voultar. This is very, very good. It's actually amazing. You know, I don't know anything about the technical solution that you've implemented here, but it's pretty amazing that you can go in and essentially I mean, you're picking up the information coming out of the DAC after it's already done all of the horrible crap that it does to the signal, and you're still able to extract such a better image out of it. It's pretty amazing that that's even possible to do externally. So I'm very impressed with it. Yeah, this is very impressive. And the thing is, the other, obviously the greatest thing about this is that since this is not a one chip, it's not susceptible to any of the issues that the one chips have. So you don't have any compatibility issues or anything like that. The only concern with these two chip consoles is obviously that PPUs fail. But the PPU-A, is that a fairly reliable variant of the PPU-2? Because I know I've got a pile of dead boards here that I guess, well, they all have PPU-2s on them, so I'm not sure. I think they all have dead PPU-2s. But I've got dead PPU-2s in like every variety. Yeah, I would say, you know, obviously this is the original hardware architecture, so the one chip is kind of like a clone, sort of. So, but yeah, no, the install is not bad at all. You know, there's just some considerations you have to make that obviously I learned here. Even though me and Voultar talked about this before I did the installation, the issue with the RGB mixer wires, you know, still, that's something you really have to pay attention to. But yeah, other than that, the installation is actually super easy. I would put it on par with, I would say this is way easier than something like a triple bypass. I hate doing triple bypasses. They're the worst. All right, let's what do y'all want to see? I've got a handful of games on my SD to SNES. I've got Chrono Trigger. I've got some Mega Man. Some Zelda. I have ROM hacks on here. I've got Super Boss Gaiden. Let's see how Super Boss Gaiden looks. Ah, man, Super Boss Gaiden looks awesome. Who all has played Super Boss Gaiden? I love Super Nintendo ROM hacks. They're my favorite. Alright. Let me grab a different game. We'll do Final Fantasy 3 because that's the classic. That's the classic demonstration of how bad the Super Nintendo is. Oh yeah. You know, even on my one chips, I'm used to seeing a little bit of a vertical line, a little bit of issues. The one chips with an RGB bypass do look really good with Final Fantasy 3, but they still have some imperfections. And this looks like downright perfect. Yeah, this could be an emulator. Y'all want Chrono Trigger? I brought a few games here. We'll go with Chrono Trigger here for a second. Such a classic. I love this game. Oh yeah, it looks beautiful. I mean, the color is something that you don't notice as much on a 2-chip normally because you're so used to seeing all the blur. The thing that's so impressive about 1-chips is how sharp they are. But, you know, and so I think that's what catches people's eyes initially with the 1-chip, and they just don't even realize that it's not as nice looking in terms of color. Okay, I want to try something else here. Right here, I have my Mega Man X2 multi-cart that I still haven't released, but I'm gonna release it on GitHub. I've actually made the GitHub page for it, but this multi-cart has Mega Man X1, 2, and 3 on it. This is gonna be Mega Man X3. Okay, if we hold the reset button for 3 seconds, that's going to switch us over to Mega Man X1. The funny thing about Mega Man X1 is that it's got a bunch of copy protection features built into it that that prevent it from functioning correctly. It has all these copy protection features in it that look for like different regions of memory that shouldn't have anything in them. And on this multi-cart with the CX4 chip, the CX4 chip triggers all of the copy protection methods in Mega Man X1, because I guess the CX4 chip returns something that makes it think it's able to access higher memory addresses than it's supposed to. And so I had to actually go in and dig up some ancient piece of software that was designed for like the like the floppy disk Super Nintendo, what are those called? Doctor something. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? The cartridge that would take a floppy disk and you could copy games that way. Anyways, I had to find some ancient piece of software that's able to strip the copy protection out of Mega Man X1 to make it work on this multi-cart at all, because if not, it trips, the CX4 chip causes it to trip all the copy protection schemes. Let's see. Let's play some Mega Man. Oh yeah. This is just how I remember it. On MS-DOS. When I was a kid, we had the MS-DOS version of Mega Man X. Because we didn't have a Super Nintendo when I was little. And, man. This is just like MS-DOS. Has anybody ever played the MS-DOS version of Mega Man X besides myself? Because it's hilarious. The soundtrack is a MIDI soundtrack, and it's just the sound font is hilarious whenever you know what it's supposed to sound like on a Super Nintendo. Ah. Alright. Now we'll go to Mega Man X2. Oh, man. Okay, one more. One more. Yes. Oh no! My saves! I think I replaced this save battery a while ago because my saves were lost. It hurt me. Man, you gotta get to those save batteries before it's too late, guys, because this cartridge and my Final Fantasy 3 cartridge, well, my Final Fantasy 6 cartridge, but it's converted to 3. I lost saves that were in progress, and it hurt me. It hurt me so bad. Star Ocean, though, I did complete this game before. I lost a complete save, that's all. I didn't lose an in-progress save, but I did lose an in-progress save of Final Fantasy 6, and that hurt my feelings real bad. So, Star Ocean's a great game, by the way, if anybody has not played it. Highly recommended. And if you want to build your own cartridge, it is a pain in the ass to do it, but you definitely can.
Captain, we've just picked up a huge amount of unidentified energy.
Where?
Mark 301.
What's amazing about this game is how many voice samples are in it. It's super impressive. This game is huge for Super Nintendo standards, but the amount of voice samples they packed into this is really impressive. There's actually a chip in this called the SDD1 that is a compression-decompression chip that's whole purpose is to decompress the sound files for this game.
What the hell? Stardate 346. Now, through an unknown force, a totally new age is about to begin. Is it God's will or the irony of fate? And still, mankind makes its way where no one has gone before.
Oh, man. Well, guys, I'm pretty impressed with this. Thanks, Voultar, for sending this over. I'm really happy to have gotten to take a look at it. And the install is, I mean, for the CPU-01, which is the only one I can really speak for, it's not bad. It's really not bad. The install process is fairly easy. And here we complicated it by having the de-jitter mod in place, but most people probably won't have that. And honestly, at this point, there's no point in having a de-jitter mod unless you're running an old OSSC and you have a particularly picky display. But that just seems like the kind of problem that doesn't really exist anymore. So, I don't know about the OSSC Pro, if anybody has one of those. If it's still susceptible to the jitter problem with the Super Nintendo, or if that's been completely solved. I think it has a frame buffer, right? So surely the jitter is not an issue for the OSSC Pro. Alrighty, well, let's go ahead and button this thing back up. And we'll call it a night. Thanks again, Voultar. I'm gonna buy another one of these from you for my other... I have other Super Nintendo here that needs one, so... Once they're available for sale for self-install, I'm going to buy one from you, and that way all of my Super Nintendos will be equipped with such a glorious mod. Okay, let me see here. Oh, Hey, Obi-Wan, you asked how the SVS is coming along. Well, while we were on this very stream, I received a notification that the newest prototypes have just arrived. Or, well, no, let me rephrase that. The newest prototypes just shipped. They'll be here on Monday. And if the new prototypes are good, then the hardware's done. The last round of prototypes was good except for one problem, and I solved that problem, sent off the new prototypes to be made, and as soon as I get them and I confirm that the problem is in fact solved, then we're good. We're ready to go. So there might be an extra delay, just because this last issue that came up was unexpected. It wasn't part of the timeline that I was estimating. So we might end up in the first week of December instead of the end of November, but it's going to be close. So not too bad as far as delays are concerned. We need our eject mechanism. All right, well there you go. That is the Edge Enhancer, done and dusted. So thrilled to have been able to try this out before it's generally available for self-installation. I really appreciate it. Voultar was super cool to send this to me. I will definitely be installing another one of these on one of my other Super Nintendos as soon as I'm able to get a hold of another kit. And, you know, if you're going to get it installed professionally, you probably want to go straight to the source, get it installed by Voultar. But if for any reason you, at some point, once the kits are available to purchase, if you want to get it installed and you want to send it to me, I would be happy to do this install as well. But go to the source, go to the man himself first. But if for any reason that doesn't work out for you, I would happily do the installation as well. But anyways, thanks guys for coming out and hanging out on stream. I really appreciate it. I will catch you guys next time.